Have you ever wondered which Asian countries have the easiest time getting a US visa? Why do people from some countries get approved more often, while others struggle with rejection? And most importantly, which country tops the list, surprising almost everyone? Before we begin, here's a simple question for you. What is the capital of the United States? Write your answer in the comments. I'll pin the first correct response. And here's another one for you. Which Asian country do you think gets the most US visa approvals? I'll reveal the answer at the end of the video. Number 10, Thailand. Kicking off our list at number 10, we have Thailand, the land of smiles. But when it comes to US visa approvals, do Thai citizens have a reason to keep smiling? With a US visa approval rate of around 70%, Thailand is one of the more successful Asian nations in securing that golden ticket to America. But why? What makes Thai applicants stand out from the rest? Thailand has long enjoyed strong diplomatic and economic ties with the US, dating back to World War II. The two nations have extensive trade agreements, and Thailand is a key US ally in Southeast Asia, which means visa officers tend to favor applicants from the country. Another major factor? Tourism and business travel. Many Thais frequently visit the US for trade expos, hospitality collaborations, and yes, even Muay Thai events. The US also sees a large influx of Thai students heading to American universities, further increasing approval rates. Oh, and let's not forget, Thai cuisine is wildly popular in the US. Maybe immigration officers are just hoping for a homemade plate of pad Thai? While many Thais get their visas approved, not everyone gets lucky. One of the biggest hurdles? Financial proof. Thai applicants often struggle to convince US authorities that they have strong financial ties back home. Visa officers fear overstaying, especially since Thailand has a large workforce in the hospitality and service sectors, making them potential candidates for unauthorized work in the US. Another issue? Lack of travel history. First-time travelers often find it harder to get approved, as officers prefer applicants with a well-stamped passport. Tip: if you're Thai and dreaming of America, maybe take a quick trip to Japan first, just to warm up your passport. Here's a fun fact. More Americans visit Thailand each year than there are Thai visitors to the US. In fact, some Americans love it so much they just never leave. Ever met an old expat in Bangkok who forgot to go back home? Yeah, me too. Now, moving on to number 9. This next country sends over 1 million people to the US every year. And if you've been to any major American city, you've probably met someone from there. Can you guess which one? Number 9, Vietnam. At number 9, we have Vietnam, a country that has come a long way from its war-torn past to becoming one of the fastest-growing economies in Asia. With a US visa approval rate of around 72%, Vietnamese applicants have a relatively high chance of getting that all-important American visa. But why? Well, it's a mix of history, family ties, and a booming economy. The US has a huge Vietnamese-American community, with over 2.2 million Vietnamese people living in America, most of whom migrated after the Vietnam War. This means a large percentage of Vietnamese visa applicants apply for family reunification visas, significantly increasing approval rates. Add to that Vietnam's growing business sector, which sees thousands of entrepreneurs and professionals traveling to the US for work and trade, and you've got a recipe for visa success. Vietnam's economic rise has been nothing short of impressive. Once a struggling post-war nation, it is now one of Southeast Asia's most dynamic markets, with tech startups, manufacturing giants, and tourism booming. As a result, the number of Vietnamese business travelers and students heading to the US has skyrocketed. Another key factor? English proficiency is on the rise. While Vietnam isn't as fluent as, say, the Philippines, more Vietnamese applicants are meeting the language requirements needed for visas. However, it's not all smooth sailing. Many applicants face rejection due to weak financial proof or suspicions of immigration fraud. The U.S. immigration system is extra cautious with Vietnamese applicants due to historical cases of overstaying, making it one of the toughest Asian countries for visa screening. Here's something you might not know. Vietnamese coffee culture is so strong that even Starbucks struggles to compete there. Maybe U.S. immigration officers should consider approving visas for Vietnamese baristas, just so they can bring that legendary egg coffee to America. But jokes aside, Vietnam's ties with the U.S. are only getting stronger, and visa approvals are expected to rise in the coming years. Now, moving on to number 8. This next country has one of the fastest growing expat communities in the U.S., and its citizens are known for excelling in tech, medicine, and engineering. Any guesses? Stick around. You might be surprised. Number 8. South Korea. At number 8, we have South Korea, a country that has gone from war-torn struggles to becoming a global economic and technological powerhouse. With a U.S. visa approval rate of around 75%, South Koreans have a strong track record of getting approved for travel, study, and work in the U.S. But what makes their approval rate so high? Well, it all comes down to strong diplomatic relations, economic ties, and an extremely low overstay rate. South Korea is one of America's closest allies, with a long history of political and military cooperation. The Korean-American community is over 2.5 million strong, making family-based visa approvals a common route. And let's not forget, South Korea sends thousands of students and skilled professionals to the U.S. every year, particularly in the fields of technology, medicine, and engineering. The South Korean passport is one of the most powerful in the world, and that alone plays a huge role in their high visa approval rates. The U.S. trusts Korean travelers because they rarely overstay their visas. Plus, South Korea is part of the U.S. Visa Waiver Program, VWP, which allows Korean citizens to visit America without a visa for up to 90 days. However, those applying for longer stays, such as student or work visas, still go through the standard process. Another major factor? Education. South Korea has a huge student population in the U.S., ranking among the top countries for international student enrollment. Many Korean students head to Ivy League schools, tech institutes, and business programs, making their visa applications more favorable. The only real challenge? Some South Korean applicants struggle to prove strong home ties, which is crucial for approval. Did you know that Los Angeles is home to the biggest Koreatown outside of Korea? It's so big that you can walk into some stores and never hear a word of English. Maybe that's why some South Koreans don't even feel like they've left home when they visit America. Now, coming up next at number 7, we have a country that sends over 1 million visitors to the U.S. every year. And they are known for their love of shopping, luxury travel, and, well, buying entire apartments in New York City. Can you guess which country we're talking about? Stick around to find out. Number 7. China. At number 7, we have China, a country that sends over 1 million visitors to the U.S. every year. And let's be honest, a good portion of them are there for one thing: luxury shopping. With a U.S. visa approval rate of around 80%, Chinese travelers have a relatively high success rate when applying for visas. But why? Well, it's all about business, education, and tourism. China has one of the largest and fastest-growing middle and upper-class populations, with millions of people eager to visit the U.S. for investment, real estate, and high-end retail therapy. It's no secret that Chinese tourists spend more per trip in the U.S. than visitors from any other country. Plus, with over 300,000 Chinese students enrolled in U.S. universities, student visas account for a huge portion of approvals. If you've ever walked around an American college campus and heard someone speaking Mandarin, chances are they're one of the many Chinese students pursuing degrees in STEM, finance, or business. China and the US have a complex but deeply intertwined relationship. While politically, the two nations don't always see eye to eye, their economic ties are unbreakable. Chinese investors own billions of dollars in US real estate and businesses, making business visas relatively easy to obtain. Family ties also play a major role, as there are over 5 million Chinese Americans living in the US, leading to a high number of family-based visa applications. But don't be fooled. Getting a visa isn't always smooth sailing. The US is very cautious about overstays and fraudulent applications. Some applicants get denied due to weak financial proof or concerns about potential immigration violations. And let's not forget, China has one of the longest visa processing times, so patience is a must. Did you know that in 2016, Chinese travelers spent over $33 billion in the US on shopping, real estate, and tourism? That's more than the GDP of some small countries. No wonder high-end brands roll out the red carpet when Chinese tourists arrive. But now, let's move to number 6. This next country is known for its strong American ties, delicious street food, and an unusual obsession with basketball. Can you guess which country it is? Keep watching. Number 6, the Philippines. Coming in at number 6, we have the Philippines, a country where nearly everyone seems to have a relative, friend, or at least a distant cousin living in the US. With a US visa approval rate of around 82%, Filipinos have one of the highest success rates when applying for American visas. But why? Well, it all comes down to deep historical ties, strong family connections, and a massive Filipino-American community. The US and the Philippines share a long and complicated history, dating back to when the country was a US territory in the early 1900s. Today, there are over 4.5 million Filipinos living in the US, making family reunification visas one of the biggest reasons for approvals. And let's not forget about the huge number of Filipino nurses, healthcare workers, and professionals who are welcomed into the US workforce every year. The Philippines has one of the largest English-speaking populations in Asia, which gives Filipino applicants an advantage in US visa interviews. Plus, Filipinos have a reputation for returning home after their trips, leading to fewer overstay concerns compared to other Asian countries. Another factor? The Philippines is one of America's strongest allies in Asia, and that close political and military relationship plays a role in visa policies. However, not every application is approved. Many Filipinos face visa denials due to weak financial proof, lack of travel history, or suspicions of overstaying. Here's a fun fact. Filipinos love basketball so much that the NBA is basically a second religion in the Philippines. In fact, there are more basketball courts per square mile in Manila than in some US cities. Maybe that's why so many Filipinos feel at home when they visit America. Now let's move to number 5. This next country is known for its strong education system, booming tech industry, and an unexpected love for fried chicken. Any guesses? Keep watching to find out. Number 5. Japan. At number 5, we have Japan, a country where tradition meets technology, and where getting a US visa is almost as smooth as their famous bullet trains. With a visa approval rate of around 85%, Japanese citizens have one of the highest success rates in Asia when applying for US visas. But why? Well, Japan's strong economy, low overstay rates, and close diplomatic ties with the US make its citizens a preferred group for visa approvals. The US trusts Japanese travelers because they have one of the lowest visa violation rates in the world, meaning once they visit, they actually return home, unlike some travelers who accidentally forget their return flight exists. Additionally, Japan is a part of the US Visa Waiver Program, VWP, allowing its citizens to enter the US without a visa for short visits, further strengthening their approval rates for long-term visas. The US-Japan alliance is one of the strongest in the world, with both countries maintaining strong economic, military, and cultural ties. Japanese professionals and business executives frequently travel to the US for corporate collaborations, tech summits, and trade agreements. Another major factor? Education. Japan consistently sends a large number of students to top US universities, particularly in engineering, robotics, and finance. But despite their high approval rates, not all Japanese applicants get the green light. Some face rejections due to weak financial proof or lack of clear travel intent. Here's something interesting. Japan has so many tourists visiting America that some US airports have Japanese-speaking customer service agents just for them. Also, did you know that California has so many Japanese expats that you can find better sushi in Los Angeles than in some parts of Tokyo? But now, we move to number 4. This next country has a reputation for producing some of the world's smartest students, dominating the tech industry, and having a deep love for spicy food. Can you guess which country it is? Stick around to find out. Number 4, India. At number 4, we have India, a country that isn't just sending engineers and doctors to the US. It's practically running Silicon Valley. With a US visa approval rate of around 86%, Indian applicants have a strong success rate when applying for American visas. But why? Well, the answer lies in education, business, and deep-rooted cultural ties. The Indian-American community is over 4.5 million strong, and a huge percentage of US visa applications from India are for family reunification, education, and employment-based visas. India also dominates H-1B work visas, with Indian professionals securing more than 70% of all H-1B approvals, especially in the IT, engineering, and medical fields. In other words, if you've ever called customer service or used a piece of cutting-edge software, there's a good chance an Indian engineer was involved. India has one of the largest student populations in the US, ranking among the top 2 countries for international student enrollments. Many of these students go on to work in America, boosting India's approval rates for student and work visas. Another key reason? Business and trade. India is one of the fastest-growing economies in the world, with strong commercial ties to the US. This means that many Indian entrepreneurs, investors, and executives travel for business meetings, tech summits, and corporate collaborations. But let's not sugarcoat everything. Getting a US visa in India isn't always easy. Interview wait times can be ridiculously long, sometimes over 500 days in major cities like Mumbai and Delhi. At this point, if you apply for a visa today, you might as well start preparing for your trip next year. Additionally, some applicants face rejections due to weak financial proof or suspicions of potential overstays. But overall, Indian travelers maintain a strong reputation for legitimate travel. Here's a fun fact. India has so many US visa applicants that the American consulate in Mumbai sometimes processes thousands of applications in a single day. Also, did you know that New York and California have such large Indian communities that you can find authentic Indian food there that rivals dishes straight from Delhi? Now we're heading into the top 3. The next country is famous for its massive immigrant population in the US, strong diplomatic ties, and an unexpected love for karaoke. Any guesses? Stick around, because the competition is getting intense. Number 3, Mexico. At number 3, we have Mexico, America's next-door neighbor and one of the largest sources of US visa approvals. With an impressive 88% visa approval rate, Mexico has a unique advantage that no other country on this list has: a shared border with the US. Millions of Mexicans travel to the United States every year for work, tourism, business, and family reunification. In fact, the US-Mexico border is one of the busiest in the world, with cities like Tijuana and Ciudad Juarez processing thousands of visa applications daily. But why are so many Mexican applicants approved? The answer lies in deep economic ties, family-based immigration, and a massive workforce that the US relies on. Whether it's agriculture, hospitality, or construction, Mexican workers are essential to the American economy, which is why US visa approvals for Mexico remain consistently high. The US and Mexico share one of the strongest trade relationships in the world, thanks to agreements like the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA. This has led to a huge number of business visas being issued every year. Another major factor? The sheer size of the Mexican-American community. With over 37 million people of Mexican origin living in the US, family-based visas are a huge reason for the high approval rates. In fact, Mexico accounts for the largest number of US green card holders each year. But, of course, not everyone gets approved. US immigration officers closely scrutinize applicants for financial stability and proof of strong home ties to ensure they won't overstay their visas. Did you know that in some parts of Mexico, getting a US visa interview appointment can take months because of the sheer number of applicants? Some people even travel to other cities just to get a faster slot. Also, fun fact, Americans love Mexican culture so much that tacos and burritos are now considered almost as American as burgers and fries. Now, moving on to number 2. This next country has one of the highest numbers of skilled professionals working in the US, dominates the tech industry, and has a rich history of immigration to America. Can you guess which country it is? Keep watching to find out. Number 2. Indonesia. At number 2, we have Indonesia, the largest economy in Southeast Asia and a rising player in US visa approvals. With a success rate of around 88%, Indonesians have one of the highest visa approval rates in Asia, and for good reason. The country's rapid economic growth, strong diplomatic relations with the US, and an expanding Indonesian-American community have all contributed to this trend. Indonesia's ties with the US date back to the Cold War era, and today, trade, education, and tourism keep those relations strong. But one of the biggest reasons for Indonesia's visa success? Its growing middle class. More Indonesians than ever are traveling abroad for business, leisure, and education, turning the US into one of their top destinations. One of Indonesia's biggest advantages is its low overstay rate. US immigration officials consider Indonesian travelers to be low-risk applicants, making approvals smoother. The country also sends a large number of students to American universities, particularly in fields like business, engineering, and environmental sciences. Another factor? Religious and cultural exchanges. Indonesia, as the world's largest Muslim-majority country, has seen increasing collaboration with the US on education and interfaith programs, leading to more visas being issued. However, not every application is successful. Financial proof remains a challenge for some applicants, as US officials require strong evidence that travelers can support themselves. Did you know that Los Angeles has a thriving Indonesian food scene? From nasi goreng, fried rice, to satay, you can find authentic Indonesian flavors all over the city. And speaking of travel, Indonesia's tourism to the US is expected to increase by 30% in the next decade. But now, let's move to number 1, the Asian country that gets the most US visa approvals. This nation has a massive international student population in the US, dominates the business sector, and has one of the strongest diplomatic ties with America. Can you guess which country it is? Stick around to find out. Number 1, United Arab Emirates. Taking the top spot at number 1, we have the United Arab Emirates, UAE, the country known for its luxury, business empires, and world-class tourism. With a staggering 90% visa approval rate, UAE citizens and residents enjoy some of the easiest access to US visas in Asia. But why? The answer lies in the UAE's strong economy, high-income travelers, and deep diplomatic ties with the United States. The country is home to some of the wealthiest individuals in the world, and US officials view UAE applicants as low-risk travelers with strong financial backgrounds. Whether it's for business, investment, or luxury travel, Emirati applicants get a red carpet treatment when it comes to visa approvals. And let's be real, when your country has some of the tallest skyscrapers, biggest shopping malls, and the richest residents, you're probably not applying for a US visa to overstay. The UAE isn't just a country, it's a global business hub that connects Asia, Europe, and the Americas. US-UAE relations are among the strongest in the Middle East, thanks to economic partnerships, oil trade, and military cooperation. Another key reason? Affluent travelers. Most UAE visa applicants belong to the upper middle class or elite business circles, meaning they have a high financial standing, which US immigration officials love to see. The UAE also has a booming expatriate community, with millions of residents from India, Pakistan, the Philippines, and beyond, many of whom frequently apply for US visas. The only challenge? Some applicants, especially expats in lower income sectors, struggle to prove strong home ties to the UAE, which can lead to rejections. Did you know that the UAE has one of the highest percentages of luxury travelers visiting the US? From shopping in Beverly Hills to investing in New York real estate, Emirati visitors love making their presence felt in America. And with that, we wrap up our list of 10 Asian countries with the highest US visa approvals. Which country surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget, our next video is all about the hardest countries to get a US visa from. You won't want to miss it. And that wraps up our list of 10 Asian countries with the highest US visa approvals. From economic powerhouses like Japan and South Korea to fast-growing nations like Indonesia and the UAE, it's clear that strong diplomatic ties, financial stability, and low overstay rates play a major role in visa success. But remember, just because a country has a high approval rate doesn't mean getting a visa is guaranteed. Every applicant still has to go through the process, prove their intent, and meet US immigration requirements. So, now it's your turn. Which country on this list surprised you the most? Were you expecting a different country to take the top spot? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'll be reading and replying to as many as I can. And if you found this video interesting, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next upload. In our next video, we're diving into the 10 hardest countries to get a US visa from. Trust me, some of these will shock you. So, stay tuned, and I'll see you in the next one.